I've turned a passion into a business quite by accident. We do a lot of TV advertising now. People aren't obliged to consume their advertising anymore, so you've got to give them a reason. It's an attention transaction now. You've got to give them something back in return for the attention that they could give somewhere else.
I remember as a child that the ads, the ones that were the most memorable, were the ones that were funny. I think actually I would argue that those sorts of ads are as good today if someone just did them. We tend to just do them at Christmas now.
I have read a lot of books, and I say this to my team. You do know that all the problems you've got now have already been answered in a book. The answers are all out there. You've just got to try and find them. But somehow we still seem to think intuitively we know how to do it.
I've got this opportunity here where, yes, I can't do what I want to do, but I'm spending 8 hours a day on my own, in my car, on my feet. I'm just going to consume as much information as possible.
That is brilliant.
Today's episode is brought to you in association with Affinia, the accountancy and tax advisory firm helping businesses and individuals make better financial decisions with confidence. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation.
So welcome. In this episode, we're going to take some time out. So we have the production team here for the podcast series. Rob, who you will have known from previous episodes, co-host. Hello. And also coming in front of the camera is Callum
Hello.
Howard from Limitless Media, who's been behind the camera for all the other episodes.
I have, yes.
Welcome.
Been pressing the buttons, making sure that it all works properly, crawling around under the table when it all goes wrong.
If there's a creaky floorboard.
Yes, I've managed to find every single creaky floorboard in this room. I mean, it's a lovely location. It's a really, really lovely location, but it's got proper old school, solid, I presume they're solid oak floorboards, which look stunning, but every other one makes a lot of noise.
We're going to take the opportunity to have a little bit of fun in this session, I think, and reflect on the previous guests, reflect on our own anecdotes. And I mean, overall, Cal is a mere baby, a youngster. One of the things that stood out for me is that I'm getting old.
What?
We're talking about things and it's like, I'm like, oh yeah, I can remember that. Music, all this sort of thing. And we've got young people behind the scenes who are going, really? Who are they?
What are they talking about? Yeah.
I mean, for those of you that will remember, and are my sort of generation, we've talked about You've Been Tangoed.
Yeah. Which doesn't seem that long ago to
No.
me. I mean, that seems like yesterday.
But Cal, did you know about that?
No. I mean, we found it. We traced the advert back to 1992, didn't we? So, Rob, where were you in 1992? What were you doing?
I'd have been 22. I was going to university.
Were you getting tangoed?
Well, yeah. No, I wasn't. Is the answer to that? Because I worked for 4 years and then went to uni, so I kind of, I'd matured a little bit, probably not as much as I should have in that time frame, and then started uni. So yeah, you'd think it would have been bigger at uni. I kind of think of it as a little bit later because I went. This will sound really obscure, but I went to an electronic games festival in Los Angeles, E3. I think
I know. Yeah, I know it. Yeah, I know E3.
Yeah. So I went in '99, and I know it's '99 because it was the year my daughter was born. And that was when we were trying to create a game, electronic online game, and we were coming up with an idea around You've Been Tangoed because it was kind of it was part of the, it was very much in the public eye, and we thought we could create a game around that. And I thought it was very funny, and we had a good laugh doing it. And that's why that's what specifically when I think about You've Been Tangoed. But it's come out of, it's not a thing.
So for younger, the babies of the group, the babies that are watching this, you'll need to Google it and you'll need to have a look at it. Because I still think, after all these years, that it's a marvellous piece of advertising. And it really, really, really took on. The unfortunate thing was that you did have lots of young people running around, unfortunately, attacking fellow students and
Slapping
saying
each
you've
other
been,
around the face.
slapping them and saying you've been tangoed. So it came off air. But still, as an advertising campaign, as a memorable line.
It's back when adverts were moments, weren't they?
Yeah.
Adverts for statements. They were big tent poles. We kind of still get them. I mean, for the benefit of the audience, my background is in marketing and advertising. You still get them to an extent. Things like the John Lewis Christmas advert comes to mind. But I think because of, and I sort of said the same thing earlier when we were talking about maybe where those advertisements have gone, is that now I think companies are focusing on omni-channel marketing. So they're not just putting all of their budget into making a great TV ad. They've also got to think about vertical social ads. They've got to think about widescreen social ads. They've got to think about YouTube pre-roll. They've got to think about user-generated content, influencer marketing. So that pool of money has been spread out further. And also now as well, I think because of the agency that we have in how we consume our advertising, we've got things like Sky where we can fast forward. We've got ad blockers on our computers. We've got YouTube Premium where you can pay not to see advertising. We don't just have to sit through advertising anymore. We've got so much more agency and control over that. And that's what I say to my clients when we're developing strategy, is that you've got to remember that, people aren't obliged to consume your advertising anymore. So you've got to give them a reason. It's an attention transaction now. You've got to give them something back in return for the attention that they could give somewhere else. And B, because we have that agency and we have that ability to research, we don't buy vacuum cleaners and encyclopedias off the doorstep anymore. We're researching, we're taking longer to make purchasing decisions. So you don't necessarily watch one TV ad and then go and buy a Tango next time you're in Tesco. You will have to be exposed to that multiple times across different platforms and different.
But I think that spoilt it, because I remember as a child that the ads, the ones that were the most memorable were the ones that were funny, the ones that actually made you laugh out loud, that weren't maybe politically correct as we have to be today and all that sort of thing. But I was remembering the one with Leonard Rossiter and Joan Collins. Was that Cinzano or
I think
Campari? Cinzano, where he was always.
You think
you
we'd know.
You don't even know what we're talking about.
No.
But those ads where she had the glass in her hand, didn't she? And he'd do something and she'd end up tipping it all over her because of what he did. But it was those things where you actually, and the toucan. Was that Guinness?
Guinness toucan,
which talked. And I think actually I would argue that those sorts of ads are as good today if someone just did them. We tend to just do them at Christmas now. But if people do that,
the world has so changed, isn't it? Because actually, if you had advertising budget, you would put an advert on ITV in the evening, probably in the break in Coronation Street, and you'd hit everyone practically. That's it's the way that this whole thing has exploded. It's so different now. It's completely different landscape.
We do a lot of TV advertising now, and that the majority of, I'd say 75 to 80% of it is all targeted.
Right.
So it's done through Sky, through a platform called AdSmart. Sky know who all of their customers are. They can demographically and psychographically profile them. And then when you're putting a campaign together, you can say, I want to speak to couples over the age of 50 whose children have left home. They are medium high affluence levels within a 35-mile radius of our store. And if your TV set is decided to be fitting that, then it downloads the ad locally to you, and when the national ads play, it plays that ad from your TV box rather than the national programming.
Right. So I'm getting different adverts, basically.
Me and my next door neighbour can be, I mean, she's, I love my next door neighbour. She's in her 80s, lives on her own. The only qualm is she plays her telly really, really loudly. And we could be watching, for example, I don't think she's watching Game of Thrones, but let's say that she likes Game of Thrones.
Really?
I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
You never
Yeah,
know.
but you
She
don't
might
know.
be, you know, she might
Be a big fan.
secretly be a Lannister. And we could, when the TV ads come on, we could watch completely different ads based on how we have been profiled. Incredibly powerful for small businesses, because the idea was you'd say, right, okay, well, I know that this kind of person watches Corrie. So we'll put our ad after Corrie as opposed to, I don't know, Grand Designs, for example.
Yeah.
That was the level of targeting that you have. Well, now that your pound can go a little bit further because you have your exposure is more pure.
But I'm from marketing and PR background, and for me, I think the thing that's changed over the years, and this comes down to media as well, and reporters and journalists. So when you did adverts, when you had someone reporting the news or whatever, there was always this unwritten rule that you didn't know where it came from. So you couldn't tell what the person that was reporting, how they felt about the matter. It
secret
was never
source,
personal. They
yeah.
sat there on the fence, they balanced the reporting. I think that's changed. And as well as that, the advertising has changed in a way that now when I look at adverts, I can sort of tell that they're the same company that's produced that advert as this one, because they've got that signature to them and you can pick it up. And I think sometimes that's what's going, because when in the past you couldn't ever tell that.
No.
Things were different. They just used to do things, and I think people would look at ads. They did the cereal ads, didn't they? And they've resurrected that just recently by doing these little mini soap opera type adverts.
Well, the
which are
Oxo
great.
family, you know,
Yeah.
that you know.
And those are the real ones that really. And I think over the years, I'm quite sad that has gone, because they were bits of entertainment on their own, weren't they?
They were. Well, there used to be that Nescafe advert that was an ongoing soap opera in and
Will
of
they,
itself.
won't they?
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
that sort of thing. Yeah. So other things that I've picked up here for me from what we've been talking about and an age thing is, but then is it that different? Running businesses, it seems to me that it doesn't matter whether you're young or old. One of the things that's coming through is that it's about aptitude. It's about that wanting to run a business, and you don't have to go to uni to get a degree or go to college and study qualification. You know, if you've got that charisma, that I don't know, let's say
Burning desire.
The drive, the drive.
Then you can do it, and nothing really should stop you making your way.
I think it's interesting. Is a bit why businesses are so different is because, you know, in principle, it's straightforward. You're going to make some money off customers, and as long as you don't spend all the money it costs to deliver that, then you've got a business. You know, it's when you can't make enough money to cover your costs that you haven't got a business anymore. And then it becomes sort of how do you scale it? Because everyone sort of starts sort of on their own, and then, you know, you get your first employee, and then slowly it builds, and as long as, again, you're still making a profit, or you have backers who allow you not necessarily to make a profit, which is kind of how I've developed my business. It becomes a more of a kind of like how the questions change, I guess. You know, what is the culture that you want? You know, we've had like Nick and Bob in from Barnes. That culture is quite something, I think. That sort of family, legacy. This term of, I think, Lucy from Adnams used the term legacy as well. Just holding the flame, the legacy of the company for a period of time until it's my turn to let go again. And I find that really, I think that's wonderful for starters, but it's not kind of how I see my business. I see it as having a vision and of a goal that I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah.
I don't think of it that way, but you know, we're all. I mean, Cal, you started your business really young at 20.
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, which is incredible, because Simon Bennett said you're unlikely to survive. You know, the first few years are really difficult.
While he was saying that, and he went through those different milestones, he said, you know, most fail in 2 years. Then the next stage is 4 years, and after that, you feel like you're kind of on a setting. And I nudged my business partner Rob, who's behind the camera today. I sort of nudged him when he said that, and I was like, you know, we have done that.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we don't sort of take a step back and pat ourselves on the back because we're always at the coalface. We're often working in our business rather than on our business. We're sort of the I don't know if you've ever read the book The E-Myth Revisited.
Yeah.
I feel like that book was written about me because I've turned a passion into a business quite by accident. So you say we started the business while we were 20. Well, we kind of started a limited company out of necessity for tax reasons. You know, we both were massive camera nerds. We'd worked part-time jobs and saved up birthday and Christmas money to buy DSLRs and lenses.
What's DS?
Sorry, DSLR is camera.
Okay.
A camera.
All right.
So this stands for digital single lens reflex camera.
Okay.
But it basically,
Of course it was.
yeah. So like a stills camera. So we bought stills
I can't
cameras
do
that could do video. We both had one. And our first job was I'd took my then girlfriend was the year below me at school. So I had already gone to college. And so I went to her prom the year later, bumped into my old drama teacher because I was a theatre kid, as you can probably tell, liked being on stage and centre of attention. And she said, "Oh, you know, I remember you being quite good with cameras when you were at school. We really want to film the show this year. Could you come in and do it?" And we said, yeah, we could do. So we went and did that. And in 2-3 weeks' time, we're going to go and film their Christmas show. 8 years later. So we now do a show twice a year. We film it. We do all of the program. We do all the headshots, the press photography, everything. Just from that first conversation 8 years ago. And that's kind of then I was kind of playing a lot of rugby at the time, and the rugby club's a really nice way to kind of network with other business owners, and we just sort of really slowly built that reputation of being two lads with cameras that knew how to use them. And then one summer I ended up watching The Wolf of Wall Street, and I don't think Scorsese's intention for that film was for people to watch it and think, I'm going to start a business. I think it's more sort of like the warning against hedonism.
I'm going to say, I think that might have had the opposite effect. I remember watching that thinking,
well, I watched it and thought, I could run a business. And so I remember we took, my girlfriend used to walk the pub dogs. So we took the dogs out for a walk. It's playing on my mind. So I rang Rob and I went, I think we should start a business. And those who don't know Rob, he's the most risk-averse person I've ever met. He's sort of he's my Jimmy Cricket that sits on my shoulder and asks if this is the right thing to be doing. And took a little bit of convincing. And the next day I drove to, because my girlfriend's parents lived in mid-Norfolk at the time, so drove to Sheringham. I went to a charity shop and bought a suit, a 3-piece suit from a charity shop, because that's what I thought business people wore. Rob also had a 3-piece suit, and we went to the Norfolk and Waveney Enterprise Centre in Norwich Marketplace, and they helped us register our company for £12.
Yay.
And then we walked out of it and went, now what? But that's a long walk for a short glass of water to say, when we started that, we didn't really have this idea of one day we'll sell this. It was just, it's been our child all the way through. It's been our baby. And I've got friends now. I'm now of an age where, you know, people we went to school with are having kids, and they talk about what it's like to be a parent, and I kind of think, well, yeah, my child is my business. And I'm very much like yourself. I couldn't see somebody else taking custody of that.
No.
You know, I couldn't do shared custody with somebody else.
I think that's because that's definitely what we're all about. UK Director magazines, right from the start, has been built around building a community, a business community, because let's be honest, most people start a business because they're passionate about something, because they're good at something, and nobody really tells them how to run a business. And I felt, and the team felt for a long time, that there's a need for that support. There's a need for that sharing experience, because let's be honest, certainly with me, you make mistakes. They cost money. You think, oh, I won't do that again. but nobody's actually sat you down and said, this is how you do it properly. This is how you do that. And unless you are in that background and trained in that background, you don't really know, do you?
No.
A lot of it, what we do is flying by the seat of the pants and gut instinct and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a bit weird because I have read.
You have said that to camera, you know that, don't you?
Yeah.
You're a bit weird.
I say it a lot, actually. People don't disagree with me or argue against it anymore. But
One thing that people might not know is that Rob you're a Trekkie, aren't you?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Massive Trekkie fan.
indeed. And not that that's relevant. Yeah, thank you. Just get it in there. Just get it in. So he's weird. That's it. That's a definition, isn't it?
I would say that's weird.
I got married in Las Vegas dressed as Jean-Luc Picard.
Okay, that's maybe towing the line.
Yeah.
I think if just to slight tangent,
this goes a lot.
I do think that if Beth walked into the ceremony and noticed me in a yellow, was it yellow?
Red.
Red.
For Next Generation. Yeah.
I think she would turn around and leave.
Well, fortunately, my wife was dressed as chief of security, so she was. And my and our eldest daughter at the time, she was 1, and we got her a captain's uniform, so everything fell into place neatly. But the actual weird bit is nothing to do with Star Trek. I think I kind of my first leadership job when I was part of Aon, big insurance broker. I in a lunch hour I picked up a copy of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Love that book.
And it's still my favourite book, even though it feels a bit dated now. And I read it, and actually, as much as it was about leading, it was also quite a lot about fatherhood, which it sort of doesn't really explicitly tell you, but it is, because Covey talks about life, the whole of life, how you are effective. It's not about just the job. And from that point on, I have read a lot of books. And I did an MBA when I was with Aon, which is great, and they funded all that, which is cool. But actually, I kept reading the texts because and I say this to my team, you do know that all the problems you've got now have already been answered in a book. You know, the answers are all out there. You've just got to try and find them. But somehow we still seem to think intuitively we know how to do it. And yet a lot of Good to Great, I think, is another one of the really brilliant texts that tell you what you should be doing, because these are the things that make you great as opposed to just good.
And we live in a time now where we've got the entire history of human intelligence and knowledge in our pockets.
Yes.
And actually, we're at such an advantage now. And I do feel incredibly lucky that I was able to, and with a little bit of know-how as well, knowing where to look for information as well. So, you know, I remember one of the things that I did, as well as read all the books when I started the company, was I would try and find sort of maybe pirate copies of seminar recordings and lecture recordings from people like Jordan Belfort or, you know, Richard Branson and those big names, to try and, again, just equip me with as much information. And part of our story is that we left university and graduated into the pandemic.
Yeah.
So we wrote a business plan whilst at university. The business had been running for about 2 years at that point, evenings and weekends, and we had to tear it up. You know, I went and delivered parcels for a less reputable delivery company that no longer exists for 18 months. And the whole time I had audiobooks and business podcasts on in my head, just saying, right, I've got this opportunity here where, yes, I can't do what I want to do, but I'm spending 8 hours a day on my own, in my car, on my feet. I'm just going to consume as much information as possible.
That is brilliant. Yeah. Because I think that, I mean, everything Covey said, I think, is true. It may not be the most consumable book for the modern age, but if everything is created twice, first time you write it down and then you create it, I think that's true. I don't think people kind of appreciate, they don't see the connection. And I don't think that's kind of fancy manifesting. I don't think that's what I'm talking about. But I think you've got to have goals. You've got to have the things, the dreams that you want to achieve.
Your focus determines your destiny.
Exactly.
And I think that's
a Star Wars quote.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
What's really important coming
out
of this is that the old stuff still stands. I mean, I went in way back in my past, was put on a Dale Carnegie course.
Yeah.
Now a lot of
Yeah.
people don't know who Dale Carnegie is now, but How to Win Friends and Influence
I
Great
love that
People.
book.
That's a great book.
I read
which
that
is
very
an
early on.
absolutely brilliant book. How to develop an affinity with someone, and so that you can share a conversation. How to have that. It's all around sales and things like that, but it still is so true. And I can still remember rule number 5. Smile. That's rule number 5.
We had that one earlier, didn't we?
Yeah.
So that's important, but it's also around. He did books on effective public speaking and things like that, and they all stand
They resonate
true
still.
today.
They do.
And we might consume that information differently. Younger generation might consume that digitally, but it's still of value, isn't it? Even though that was almost, I don't know, it was pre-Second World War or
It's very early on. I think it might be pre. I just remember that just amazing, just statistics that he, and they might be out of date, but I don't think they are. It's something around in a conversation with clients, you probably talk about the technical issue of the client meeting for about 15% of the time you're with. And if you actually do that, you're going to have a much better meeting and you're going to have a much better relationship. I say this to my guys all the time, don't worry about the technical stuff. You obviously got to be right. And if you don't know the answer, that's fine, because not everyone knows the answer to anything. I mean, when we spoke to Simon Bennett about insurance and all of that, we were saying how there's so much variety in insurance. I don't know the answer to every insurance question. I've been doing it for 37 years because I just don't. I'll still be surprised by stuff that gets thrown my way. And that's a good thing, isn't it? I think to be, to know that you don't know.
I think that's something that I'm learning as a business owner I think when the buying the 3-piece suit is a very sort of hyperbolic example of me thinking as a young person what a business owner has to be. And I still think I've got those unhelpful beliefs of what being a business owner and running a business is. And I think one of the ones I'm really overcoming at the minute is admitting that you don't know something. So what I'm trying to do more of is, if something comes up, is to say, I don't know that, but I'll find out. And I think that's something that is been a real takeaway from that conversation you were talking about in insurance. It's really interesting to have sat behind the cameras and seen these fantastic business leaders be quite vulnerable in their authentic in their skills gaps, and to say, you're the CEO of Adams, and you're sitting there saying, I know what I know, and I know what I don't know. And I think that's quite brave.
Now seems a great time to take a break and talk to you about our podcast sponsor, Affinia. Affinia is an accountancy and tax advisory firm helping businesses and individuals make better financial decisions with confidence. From everyday accounting to long-term strategic planning, their team is dedicated to understanding your goals and supporting you with proactive advice that truly adds value. As your partner for accountancy and business advisory services, Affinia works closely with businesses of all sizes, offering clear financial reporting, forward-looking insights, and strategic advice that helps you plan for growth. With a focus on building long-term relationships, their team gives you the support and visibility you need to make a confident decision for you and your business. Discover how Affinia can support you and your business at affinia.co.uk.
A quick pause in the conversation. If you're a director, MD, CEO or business owner in Norfolk, Suffolk and Essex, and you ever feel that leadership can be quietly isolating, you're not alone. That's exactly why I created the UK Director Business Club, a private peer community for experienced directors and business owners and senior leaders who value thoughtful conversation, perspective and credibility over networking noise. There's no selling, no pitching, just real discussion with people who understand the responsibility of leading a business. If that sounds like something you'd value, click on the link in the description.
I thought Anna was very brave with her, her troubles with, getting to this point where she burnt out. that's just people need to know that happens, because I think we all, we've all had moments where we're like, I'm not coping. There's too much here.
And also to be brave enough to say, I need to step away from this. This isn't right for me. It's not right for my health. And because it's very brave. And also I defy any business owner really to have not had this thought come across their mind as, are they doing the right thing? Should they do something else? I'm a big suffer from imposter syndrome, and there probably isn't a day that goes by where I don't think, oh, am I the right person to do this? But there's also you have to be so brave to think, oh, that's all right, I'm going to stop doing that because it's not the right thing. Because there's always, you're assuming what people will think of you. You're assuming that people will think you might be a failure or that you're whatever, and I think that
people don't think that. I mean, I think that's where Bob and Mark, it's such a great thing to have found a co-MD that you get on with, like, you're really tight, and then you are gonna, if there are those moments, you've just got each other to talk and they completely understand it,
and your friends. So coming to work, wow, wouldn't you like to go to work with your best friend every day?
I get tea.
Yeah. Well,
and so do you, don't you?
Well,
if you're going to call Brian your best friend,
I mean, we do argue like cat and dog. But the fact is that we know we have a synergy. We think the same. We are the same, probably, except he's male and I'm female. But that's a great thing. But I do think that what has really touched me is that how people that are more experienced and seem to be, they're further along the line, probably, are so willing to share and so willing to talk to others about their experience. And I think that's what is really fantastic, is that if you just ask, probably the answer is that they're going to come and they'll share that with you. It's like with Gemma, Rosie from ROL Cruise. I mean, she worked her way up. She's working with people in the organisation now as the CEO of an employee ownership trust, and the people that she is the boss of are people that she's come through the ranks with, who have worked with her.
And that's not easy. That's not easy, to do that. And I love that kind of, we've spoken to a lot of people about their systems, their own personal systems, but her getting in the car, playing Eye of the Tiger to go to work, I think that is like, you know what, if that's what you need, we talk about people's, how do you find your own balance? And that's just brilliant, I think.
What's your anthem, Rob, to get you pumped?
Funnily enough, every year I end up being one of the presenters at the Home Start Ball, so I have to stand at the front with Tara, our CEO, and we do a kind of a double act. Not that it's particularly well prepared or anything, and I always kind of get some good, strong. I like sort of indie music, so that's my thing. I'm a massive Wombats fan, so there are certain Wombats songs that just hit the right note for me, and I will play about 3 of the ones that I really, really make my heart pump, that I just think, this just resonates perfectly, and then I'm set. So I'm not a big user of music in that way, but for that occasion, actually, I found that's a really useful thing. Probably because I'm nervous, but it's those things work.
Yeah. What about you, Sue?
Well, I've got 2, but it's I would describe it more as when I've got them on, I'm upbeat, and I never skip over them. So they're never ones that I move on when they come on. And the first one is Genesis with Turn It On Again.
Great song.
That one. And the second is Snap, The Power.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay. I didn't have you down as a...
Did you not?
No.
Well, there you go.
It's good to know.
But then there's also, because I do a lot of writing, for me, I found music has been indicators of time in my history. So when I'm playing, there's a certain track or whatever, and when it comes on, it reminds me of something in my past because of that music has been. But one of the things I have is I've got an instrumental soundtrack, and that might be film themes and TV series and things like that. rather than classical music.
Yep.
But I will plug that in when I'm writing because I
Yeah.
found that gives me energy.
I
Actually,
do that a lot in our office.
Yeah.
Right.
And my theory is because, and we also use a lot of video game music,
Right.
video game soundtracks in our office because film scores, video game, TV, music is all designed to be undistracting
Okay.
and complementary of the primary focus.
Yeah.
So classical music can be very sort of be very dynamic, can be very loud, they're very quiet and can be quite disruptive because it's in itself is meant to be it's meant to be the center of attention.
Yeah.
Whereas cinematic music is meant to take a slight backseat.
For me, I love Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
I mean,
Rob's a big
any
Hans
of
Zimmer
his
fan.
music, it's like, oh my God, you know, you have that going on in the background, and it's almost like you're empowered. You feel as though you're writing a real epic here, War and Peace or whatever.
I will often look over at Rob's computer and he'll have some Hans Zimmer playing on his Spotify when he's got his headphones locked
So
in.
varied as well.
Yeah.
We could do a whole podcast on Hans Zimmer actually.
Do you have a pump up song at all?
I've got very much like you too. I've got one that brings me up and one that brings me down. So if I need to get pumped, it's Bohemian Rhapsody every single day. I will often shout that. I have a bit of a commute down the A47 in the morning, so I will I'm normally
It's a
shouting
proper
that.
sing along, isn't it?
Yeah, if I'm in a good mood and I just need to kind of take the edge off. But if I'm like yourself, if I'm feeling a little bit sort of insecure and imposter syndrome and things like that, it's Billy Joel's Vienna. And the line, slow down, you're doing fine. You can't be everything you want to be before your time.
Yeah.
And that for me is that sort of those 3 minutes are a little bit of a centering, sort of almost like a ritual to kind of remind myself that, I'm doing a good job.
Yeah.
And that kind of helps to quieten that voice of doubt to then get pumped up with a bit of Queen.
Yeah. I like it. Well, I have songs for each of my kids. So there are certain songs that are their songs, which they know, which is nice. My eldest decided to change her song, which was nice.
Okay.
So I had.
Did she tell you?
Oh yeah, she did. Now I think of that one as a song because I just do what she says. It's easier that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? The way that music, and I think your point about it can just take you to the past. There's no such thing as time travel, but there is music.
Yeah.
That just in a blink of an eye. You're in the 80s or you're in the 90s again. I think so.
And that moment, the thing is though, I don't know. If someone was to ask me, if I went in for one of these pop quizzes, and they ask you what year it was, I wouldn't have a clue. I always think
I'd work out what I was doing at the time.
That's the way
and
I try.
That's the only thing that you can do. But if it's pretty abstract, there's it could be that, or it could be that. I'm not quite sure. So it's
I just maybe because I've got less decades to go through. It's
all right,
slightly
rub
easier.
Rub it in.
Less to filter. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it?
So I think it's been, for me, this has been really interesting. All our podcast guests have been really interesting.
Yeah.
But for this one has probably left me feeling a little bit more nostalgic than I normally am. And
Is that because you went to school with Bob?
Might be.
Yeah.
Might be. I mean, it's just talking at me. It's like with Simon talking about Prince.
Yeah.
We were talking about the adverts, weren't we? We were with Jenny. We were talking about the Cure.
I know. Yeah, I know. That was quite amazing, actually, that she's a Cure.
And then
fan.
also talking to people like Anna and Gemma, who are of an age where they, to be fair, but they're old enough to be my kids, and they can't even remember when you're talking about things. I had a conversation with someone the other day, and please don't you do this. And I was talking
Be
about
warned.
it was about Robert Redford.
Yeah.
And
All the
I said,
President's
Robert
Men.
Redford, and they went, who? And I went,
I've had those conversations.
Robert Redford. Butch Cassidy, Sundance Kid. Paul Newman. No, don't know who you're talking about. I said, if I ask you, do you know who Brad Pitt is? And they went, isn't he a film star or something? And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I am getting very old.
I think like film stars, it's sad in a way, but film stars are seemingly sort of less important now because we got so much media.
We've got celebrities for celebrities' sake.
We've got this chap on I'm a Celebrity called Angry Ginge.
Angry Ginge.
I never heard of him, or I hadn't actually heard of the rapper either. I'm like, who are these people?
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm getting old when I look at the lineup for Strictly or I'm a Celebrity and think, who the hell are you?
Who are these people? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing is, there aren't really many what I would consider real movie stars left.
We would have said, again, I sound like an old whingy woman, but you would have had proper film stars.
Yeah.
Proper film stars.
A-listers.
Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton, Paul Newman.
But then in those days, that was the media, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
I think that they had this very similar conversation on The Rest is Entertainment recently. Marina Hyde's definition of an A-list celebrity like that is the kind of person that could make you go to see a film just because they're in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Or they would make you listen to a song just because they were in it.
But how can you be a celebrity these days? Because you've been on Love Island.
Well, you just milk it, don't you?
I know, but it's all about. But I'm just thinking, okay, I think I am.
I think Love Island's the demise of Western civilization. I watch it. I think if my daughter went on this,
I mean, but actually, to be fair, we talk about the entrepreneurial spirit,
yes,
right, and thinking of basically the way I look at a lot of people that go on things like Love Island. A lot of them have done, whether they realise it or not, they've done a SWOT analysis. They've said, right, what are my strengths and weaknesses?
Yeah.
Well, my biggest strength is I'm really fit and I'm really attractive. My weakness is that I don't have much of a personality. Well, my opportunity is to go on Love Island.
Yeah.
And then they've done exactly the same thing. They've come off it and they've said, right, well, what's my new SWOT analysis? Well, my strengths are that I've got great brand awareness. I've got a social media following. Well, what's my opportunity? Well, I can start a fitness brand or I can start a makeup brand. And they are continually looking at what like you said at the beginning of the podcast, is how can I take money from customers and then spend less than it costs me to make.
Exactly.
Do you know, I'd never even thought about it. You're absolutely right, aren't you?
And yeah, okay, these people, what they represent culturally may be a degradation of intelligence and art, but they are entrepreneurs at heart.
It works.
Maybe I need to get a collection of ex-Love Island contestants on the
don't
podcast.
invite me in. I don't think I can need to co-host that.
Who would I get co-hosting?
I don't know. Maybe.
Don't look
Cal
at
can
me.
do it.
I don't look at me. I mean, I was lucky enough to be to be invited to a swanky do at Saxon Air to film it, and they were doing a partnership sort of VIP evening with Joe Malone Fragrances, and I knew all the footballers that were there, so I was sort of rubbing shoulders with them, and I showed the edit to a couple of my friends, and they were like, "Oh my god, that's such and such from they were on Love Island, and that's such and such. They're a drag artist." And I'm like, "Oh, I had a nice chat with him in the queue, and we spoke about how nice the vol-au-vents were, but I had no idea, and I had no idea who he was. So you could have me on the Love Island episode,
I think, sometimes,
and I think actually sometimes they probably appreciate it.
Yeah, you're free.
Yeah.
Then, well, that kind of, that's the world has changed.
Yeah. Well, you speaking of nostalgia, Sue, one of the questions you've asked all the guests is what advice would they give to their younger versions of themselves? So what advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh, I'm so pleased you asked that, Cam.
Why? Were you thinking of asking that?
No, I just think it's one of those questions you're like, oh shit, what would I say? What would you say?
So I think when I was much younger, I've always been quite ambitious. So I can remember going on my first training course and someone saying, "Can you tell us what you want to be when you grow up?" And I was the only one in the room who said, "I want to be CEO." All of us, nobody in that room, and they all laughed at me. And the trainer said, "Actually, Sue's got it right, because she's got ambition, because she's not seeing the next step, she's seeing right up there." So I think there are a couple of things I say to my younger self, and that is, don't be so vocal and impetuous. I've always been very forthright and said it as it is. Just breathe and take time and then react. But I'd also say, keep going, keep those aspirations, have ambition, because it's the ambition that drives you. Because there are going to be lots of people along the way that want to trip you up or make sure it doesn't happen or whatever, but just keep strong. When it's starting a business, so someone had told me when I started the business, it'd be the last thing you think about before you go to bed and the first thing you think about before you get up. And it doesn't matter what your family circumstances are or whatever, it's all consuming. You never switch off. You never switch off thinking about it. I think I would have probably not been more cautious about starting the business and making sure I had the foundations in place. I didn't have anything from a financial point of view when I started up. And I think that's always put you on the back foot, because you make a little bit of money and then you use it to do something else, and you make another bit of money and use it to do something else. Whereas I feel as if I'd had that buffer, if I'd had sort of 6 months of savings in there to carry me for 6 months without having to pay myself, without having to draw any money, that would have put the business in its early years on a much stronger foundation. So that was one of the biggest things that I would do. But for me, as a person, it would be about just not being such a smart ass.
No,
that's good.
yeah.
You know, when you're young.
You don't have to be the smartest one in the room. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's about listening to other people and not trying to score points off.
Well, to come back to Dale Carnegie, seek first to understand and then be understood.
Yeah.
Rule number 2.
I've always been one of those
Stephen
people
Covey.
that's
Stephen Covey, sorry. Too many
many,
early 20th
exactly,
century steel barons that I've got mixed up there.
I think
Well, that was a lovely message to your younger self.
yeah, but the other thing is, I mean, being a husband and wife business as well. Oh my God, we're both the same. We've done the psychometric testing. We did that.
You've done your sort of disc.
Well, I wanted to
I
do that.
love a disc
Yeah,
profile.
When you're actually living together, working together, and that sort of thing. I didn't want it to end in divorce, obviously, but so we both sat down, and I thought, why is it we keep doing this? Why do we keep butting heads over things? And it turns out we're exactly the same. We always want to have the last word. We always want to win an argument. You know, we always and understanding that by doing disc profiling has been really
you a D?
quite a strong thing. It's the green one.
I don't know.
Is that?
Yes, I think it's D. It's over on the top left.
Top left D. Yeah.
I am very much top left.
Yeah. Whereas I'm an IS.
How are you?
On the line and sort of midway, and my wife is on the left, exactly the same place. So I put relationships ahead of competency, which I think is, so she puts competency, and so it's quite interesting that we are this sort of. It's not well, all this is not polar opposites, but it makes sense, because actually I think in our marriage we've been very good at is knowing that one another have the strengths in different areas. So I've always been a bit more of a dreamer with the kids. Like, you know, if you want to do something, you can do it. You can do it. You just have to apply yourself. And my wife has been, you know, you can't do that because that's not your skill set. You know, that's not what you're good at. So do this. And I think that's quite a useful yin yang, because some of the time I think the kids believe me, and a lot of the time they probably took better advice from my wife. But knowing one another is really key, isn't it?
Yeah. I also think there's another thing that's really with me is I'd be a useless poker player. I do not and never have. My mother says to me, "Oh my goodness, Sue, you do not suffer fools gladly." I can absolutely see written on your face if someone is like, and if I could, I wish I could go back and sort of teach myself in a way how to be an actor. I think actors can do that. They can bring this persona where someone will say something or do something, and there isn't this. I look at people like, why did you do that? You know, and it's just on my face.
There's an internet trend at the minute, sort of a social media trend around customer service, where a customer will come up to, say, the restaurant counter and say, and there'll be 2 members of staff working, and they'll go, "Excuse me, what's the difference between the 6 and the 9-ounce steak?" Or ask a really simple, obvious question. And one of the members of staff will go, for audio listeners, I'm appearing sort of shocked and confused. And then the other member of staff will quickly draw a smiley face on a piece of paper and stick it on their head, and then sort of put on the customer service. And I do think having, I started my career in customer service. I started my career in IT customer service.
Oh, okay.
So my one of my first jobs was being on the other end of the phone, or people walking in and saying, "I've got no internet," or "My computer, I've forgotten my password." So the ability to be able to go,
switch it off and switch it back on.
"It's my pleasure to help you this morning," through a smile, I think is a skill that. My favourite one was she rang us up and she went, "Internet's not working." I went, "Right, okay, no worries. So any lights on the router?" She said, "What, the internet box?" "Yeah, any lights on that?" No. "Ah, right, okay, so it's going to be a power issue. When did it last work?" "Well, I last saw it working. I was watching some iPlayer earlier. Then I did the hoovering, and now it's not working." And I went, "Okay, and what did you unplug to plug the hoover in?" "Oh, right, there we go. Excellent."
But that's brilliant, isn't it?
No, that's like the thing where you always get this thing where my car's broken down and someone says to you, "Well, when did you last fill it up with petrol?" And you think, "I'm not stupid."
Well, I thought you were going to say there was a power cut, because that's the sort of thing. I mean, I suppose they're using the phone, so maybe that doesn't work. But but people don't necessarily connect the dots, do they?
Well, that takes me back actually to very early in my career, and I worked for, it's no longer in existence, but Eastern Electricity, and I worked on the appliance repairs desk. So people were ringing in because their appliance had broken down or whatever. That's at the time when they used to send engineers out to fix things. And around Christmas time, you would always get phone calls with people ringing up saying, "My oven doesn't work." And 99% of the time it was because they'd set the timer and then hadn't unset the timer. So it wasn't actually switching on when they turned the oven on. And you just have to say to them, "Well, just run it through and reset it or whatever." "Oh, it works now." Yeah, that's because the timer's set. So it's a bit like the petrol.
I remember smart boards first coming into classrooms, like smart whiteboards.
Oh, yeah, the whiteboards.
And we've had a massive phase of teachers using, because they were touchscreen, you had to use the special pens.
Yeah.
And they would use
the wrong
permanent marker or chalk on the board, and then
and then where the rubber was.
Or what we would do, so there was a calibration thing. So obviously you'd put the pen on the screen, like on your touch screen, and it would know where that corresponded. And there was a calibration thing where you had to tap dots with the pen so it knew. So what we'd do is when the teacher left the room, you'd go to the calibration screen and then randomly tap around the screen. So when they came back in to start writing, it would go everywhere.
That makes
that's
us
so
at school
evil.
being really tame. Because we had the old chalkboards, and the one thing that we used to do is we had a couple of teachers that were rather small. So every time they used to go out, we used to put the chalk, the cleaner, right up height, so they came back in and they couldn't. They have to get.
That was quite tame.
Yeah, that was
I had a guy in we were sat around the Bunsen burners, a group of 3. I don't know if Rob was in the class at the time. And one of our good friends, we were, lighting magnesium, and he just walked up to the teacher's desk, took the whole roll of magnesium tape, and lit it on a Bunsen burner. And the whole thing went up like a firework. And the teacher, and he sort of looked at it and then hid it under the desk. And there was this white glow of light from underneath the desk. And the teacher sort of walked over and, "What are you doing?" And he sort of very sheepishly, sort of just these pair of tongs and a roll of magnesium tape, just like so bright you had to wear sunglasses, just sort of holding it. And I just saw the life drain from this teacher's face. It's like, they didn't teach me how to deal with this at university. But, that's lower soft for you.
Yeah, wild.
So we've had a trip down memory lane.
And on that bombshell.
Yeah. So I hope you'd enjoyed this episode, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the UK Director Business Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, then visit our website, ukdirectormagazines.co.uk, where you can listen to more episodes as well as download our library of magazines, Suffolk Director, Norfolk Director and Essex Director. Don't forget to join our UK Director Business Club, where you can enjoy a whole host of benefits, including exclusive content such as unedited podcasts, free tickets to our events, and so much more. See you next time. Goodbye.